I would see the relationships my friends would have with their dads, and it was very different to the relationship I had with my dad. I always was desperate for his love and his attention, and it was really hard to get that. He was never there, really, even though he was. Dad's alcoholism just took him away. One day in particular, Mum was at work and I was off school. Dad was up in bed. As soon as Mum came home from work, she had gone up to see my dad and then just come running downstairs to say that he'd just passed away upstairs. I was 13 years old at the time. I wish that, our time was spent a lot differently than it was. It was so sudden, but I did think that that was going to be a long-term problem for me. It was going to cause a lot of pain, and it did.